Hello and welcome to the Private Property Podcast. I'm your brand new host, Sibs Matiela, and we're here to talk all things property. Today, we are speaking to Mark Berman, who's going to tell us about finding and buying the right kind of property for your needs. But before we get to that, I must remind you, as I usually do, that all roads lead to the property show.
This year, we're back in real life and virtual with content generated in our metaverse studio. We've designed the exhibition space to replicate the world's most popular property game and added in activities for the whole family, including an indoor park and play area. The game board is divided into 4 journeys, namely First-Time Home Buyers Boulevard, Investment Avenue, Sellers Street, and Renters Road. Visit thepropertyshow.co.za for more information and to get your tickets today. The Property Show 2022, 27th to the 28th of August at the Sandton Convention Center. No matter where you are on your property journey, we've gathered the experts.
You heard it here first. All roads lead to the property show. That's happening on the 27th and the 28th of August, 2022 at the Sandton Convention Center. Remember, you can watch and join us virtually from anywhere in the world, but we would suggest that you be here in person. And if you'd like to do that, you can purchase a ticket by clicking in the link in the comment section. Back to today's episode, though, we are speaking to Mark Berman, who's the managing director at Soundrock Integrated Property Solutions. And we are talking about finding and buying the right kind of property for your needs. Mark, welcome.
Hi Sibs, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm also.
Tell me everything about Soundrock Integrated Property Solutions.
So I'm going to give you a quick synopsis. I'm not going to go through the whole thing.
Okay. You can go on and on. You can go as long as you want.
Okay. Well, I think the big deal here is that I've been around in the property game for about 30 years. I started off with Brol in Cape Town and worked my way up into the actual development space. So I did leasing, developments, anything from retail, commercial, industrial. I've done building conversions, amazing things. I even got the opportunity to renovate Kyalami Castle.
Wow.
How's that for a cherry on the top of
Yeah.
something? That's pretty cool.
Okay.
So that's what we do, organize project management, development management, leasing, tenant coordination, which is making sure that the specification for whoever's going to go into the property is done the way that they want it done, so they can take occupation. You name it. I mean, I've done pretty much anything in this game.
You know, someone like you with a world and wealth of experience, especially in this particular industry, like, is there a favorite thing that for you when it comes to property and when it comes to what you do?
I think the favorite thing for me is just, why the question is, why did I get involved in this and why do I do what I do? And my grandmother always had this saying, is that a person always needs a roof over their heads. You need somewhere to sleep at night, etc. And that's the basis of property, I guess, is you want to provide a usable space for people that they're going to enjoy, use the way that they want it used, as well as give a return to the investors who are investing in the property, be it a developer, institutional fund, or whatever it is. So it's such a symbiotic thing. And for me, watching people use the spaces for what they intended and watching the guys and their reactions to, hey, what you did was deliver on what you were supposed to, and we getting our little slice of the pie as well, is just, there's nothing better than that.
What's the most challenging thing you've ever had to do?
Wow, that's a really, really good question. I think, you take building conversions, those are really, really challenging things to do because you don't know what's happening behind a wall or in a ceiling. And when you start breaking things down, you can open up something and find literally a rat's nest. So those are the most challenging things. The budgets are really tight on building renovations. Everything's bespoke. It's not like you're going in there and you can just do what you want. So there's specifications that are set down, and costings that are set down. When you go in there, you pull out a ceiling and you could realize that there's another ceiling above the ceiling, and inside that there's a whole air conditioning unit. Trust me, I've been there, I've seen that, I've done that. And you'll end up going back and asking for extra money because you never realized the problem that you had originally. And that does happen. You can do a due diligence, but hey, when you're on site, that needle moves. So it's the way that it is. Those are challenging things.
It always feels like some kind of scam, right? I have the kind of mother who's always extending the house. She's always trying to build up or build sideways or make a little And what you find constantly is like everyone thinks builders or developers are liars because they'll say, oh, it'll be done by a certain time or it's going to cost this much money. And then they come back and then suddenly it costs more. Why does that happen?
For a number of reasons. And I always start off with the main reason is not putting the specification down properly up front. So most people who are doing extensions to their houses kind of like draw it on the back of a cigarette box or a little piece of paper that they, the back of a bull. Oh, this is what I want. And then they're getting a builder who's not necessarily qualified and has all the registrations, etc., to then go and build it. So his costing, their vision, the two things don't exactly gel. And then, of course, there's all the finishes that go with it, because you can pay anything from 75 Rand a square meter for a tile up to 1,000 Rand a square meter for a tile. So depending on the day and what you want as an end product, that's a moving target all the time. So I always say to people when they want to get involved in doing renovations is to get an architect first of all, because you need a professional team. It doesn't matter that you're just building on a garage. Things need to be done properly. You need professionals. You need an architect. They don't have to be the most expensive architectural practice in the world, but they do have to be registered as architects. And you need to submit drawings if you're going to do an extension, which requires foundations, and all that kind of thing. Internal things, not necessarily, but I always get somebody to draw, because if you have a drawing, you can have a specification that goes with a drawing all the way through to the color of the paint on the wall. So that's where the target becomes a moving target. And the worst thing is to have a builder that is not a proper builder. I know.
Mom, are you listening? Say
so
more.
So, there's so many horror stories out there about guys who are, they hire bucky builders and the guy takes a 50% deposit and disappears. Or he, halfway through the job, asks for extra money because he's run out of cash flow, and then he disappears. And then his staff come because he hasn't paid his staff, and they take out the windows and the doors and the toilets and take the tiles off the wall to go and sell them so they can actually pay their own way.
You're telling the story of my childhood, Mark.
I'm so sorry.
I think my mom and you needed to have this conversation.
I think a lot of people need to have the stock reality adjustment, because the industry is actually a very good industry if you're ticking all the right boxes and you're following the actual rudimentary things that you need to do. They're shortcuts, and you're going to pay for shortcuts. I'm sorry, it's the way that life is. You're not going to go to your GP to go and do your heart transplant. It's just not going to happen. You're going to pay the right person, the correctly qualified person to do the work that needs to get done. And it's sad because the building industry gets this terrible name only because people use people that are not supposed to be in it in the first place.
So how would you suggest people go about vetting those people?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have the NHBRC, which is a regulatory body that people have to be registered with. I wouldn't, if somebody's not NHBRC registered, it's just a tick. It's a tick. I'm not going to go into good, bad, or indifferent. That's not my place at all. But, it's a first step in the right direction. Then, once you've established that the person is registered to the NHBRC, for instance, then you're going to go and check their work. You've got to do an audit. You've got to do a due diligence. When you go to a doctor, you always are referred by another doctor. They tell you this is the right person to go and see. If you're going to any professional kind of situation, you want to do that. You're not going to go to, if you want to buy Louis Vuitton, you're going to go and check that the stuff that you're buying from Louis Vuitton is the genuine Louis Vuitton. But you're not going to go to Chinatown to buy a Louis Vuitton bag. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what you're going to get. It's just a fact. And the same thing goes for any of these guys. You need to go and make sure that the person saying to you, I built a house in Vosloorus. So go to Vosloorus. Go look at the house. Go speak to the person who's in the house. Are you having any trouble with this? there's nothing stopping you from doing that. You do due diligence for other things,
Yeah.
For ladies who want to have some augmentation here or there.
Why did he go there?
Because I'm naughty and I can. And I think the thing is, if you want to add something on, be it your house or you want Botox, you're going to go and you're going to check out the person that's doing it.
Yeah, the Turkish doctor with the hair plugs, you need to know if the hair plugs stay in. That's for the gents.
Thank
so
you.
they can feel included as well.
No, we need to, because men also need things done, when we get older. But, you look at a property and you want to renovate it, you want to do something with it, you need to have qualified people that you're dealing with. And check people out. Don't use somebody's aunt's, others, brothers, sisters, cousin who once saw a brick that now is a builder. You can't do that. You're going to lose money.
And don't watch YouTube tutorials either.
Yeah, that's great. I can just imagine how that wall's going to stand up after watching one of those.
If you build a strong foundation, Mark, anything is possible. Listen, in your opinion, what's the first thing people need to take into consideration when starting to look for a new property?
The thing that strikes me most when people are looking for a property is it's an emotional buy. If you're buying a property for yourself, it's all about emotion. So work out what you really want and then go and shop around and find what you want. If it's 5 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, if it needs a cottage, if it doesn't, whatever. If you're looking at it for some sort of supplementary income because you want a cottage on or whatever it is, you need to really have a succinct viewpoint of what you're looking for, and don't expect that you're going to find your way in the end, because it'll just drive yourself insane running around. So just really know what you're looking for.
I could talk about a number of other things, but I'm going to try stick to the script. People can be intimidated by a number of real estate portals, right? How would you say they can streamline this? Like, what's the most important thing that they should be looking for?
Well, first of all, you really need to know how to use the portal. It's all very well that you've heard about it or whatever, but these portals are really clever, and you can search them very cleverly, finding the exact thing that you're looking for. Obviously, you're looking for a product range, so you're going to put in price, area, etc., etc. So my advice to guys is, when you start off looking for property, just take the time out and learn how to use the portal. They're not difficult to use, but just take the time, because otherwise you're just going to get frustrated, and there's so many different things that you can find on there. They're incredible.
And you end up with sort of like multiple tabs open at the same time, and then just being really confused.
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
Closing the thing altogether.
Exactly, but it goes back to your first question, is what is the person really looking for? Because otherwise, if you haven't started off with that, and then you get onto a portal, well, you are going to get bamboozled. I mean, there are thousands of properties out there, so you want to just cut that down a little bit.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm still laughing about the hair plugs. I'm not going to lie.
It's fine.
Let's consider AI and AI's role now in our lives in general. Our smart fridges, our smart TVs, our smart everythings. Do you think there's a role now for AI taking over in the place of real estate agents?
I really hope not. I hope not. I hope we're still going to be able to speak to people. The one thing about AI, which is a good thing, is your ability to scan through a lot of things very, very, very quickly. So your time saving factor and not driving around from place to place is massive from a time saving point of view. I remember years and years ago, you used to have the newspapers used to have all the properties on a Saturday that you would go through.
Saturday Argus. It was
Saturday
the place
August,
to be.
The Saturday Star. It was like, there was just so many things. The interesting thing about that was it was really cool. I miss that, to be honest, because like real tangible, tactile kind of like thing that you're doing. The thing with it is that it takes time, and we've cut down the time from having a 2-day show weekend to a show day from 2 in the afternoon until 5 o'clock on a Sunday. So you've really got to do your searches, and you need that information to be able to get there quickly, because you just don't have the time anymore. It's not like going, oh, I'm going to XYZ suburb and I'm going to just drive around and see the houses. You're never going to get there. It's not going to work. So that's a very important thing. But people are important. Having conversations are important. I mean, just imagine if we weren't sitting over here and it was all AI. we like two little puppets and a cartoon characters and going on. That's like, oh no, that's not life. I always argue with people about the use of a mobile phone. It is a phone. You make a phone call, voice notes, WhatsApp texts, whatever. Take away the personalized service that you really want. And relationships, life is built on relationships. It's the interaction between people that make things happen. It's the spark and the energy. So there's definitely a place for AI, and it needs to be used, saving time and finding things that are more specific. But I certainly hope that estate agents rise to this, use that, and then in the back of that, deliver exceptional service, so that that interaction is well worth it, and it's augmented by AI.
I'm glad you brought up the real estate agents. What would you say are the most important questions to ask a real estate agent when you're now looking for property?
I can give you 3.
Okay.
So the first thing that you're going to ask your real estate agent before you put in an offer to purchase is, I want a copy of the title deed. That's a super, super important thing. The second thing you're going to find out from your estate agent is what's actually going on in the area. Okay, because you don't know if there's a mall going up across the road unless you start asking, and your real estate agent needs to know what's going on in the area. So that's super, super important. The other thing, obviously in today's times, knowing what's going on in the councils with water shortages and things like that, is to find out in the area what's going on. Like, do we have lots of blackouts because in this area the substation keeps tripping, and it's not an Eskom scenario, it's actually a problem with overloading, and there are areas that are like that. So you start looking at those things, but I can promise you now, the first thing you want is you want to have a look at your title deed. Most people never ever look at it, and have never ever read their title deed.
What are they looking for in the title deed?
It's all about restrictions. So you will have old title deeds when somebody buys a property, and they've got things like, well, in there it will tell you what your building lines are, what your servitudes are, and all those kind of things. But if somebody wants to build a cottage on their space, and I'm not saying this as a general term, but potentially there could be, this is only one unit and you cannot put something else on there. Let's say, for instance, the person wants to do a little bit of a development. They've bought this property and they want to they want to have a restaurant.
Flats.
Yeah, let's say they want to have one level of restaurants and 3 levels of apartments. And they look at the title deed and they see in the title deed that you can't sell alcohol on the premises.
Why would it say that?
Because a lot of these title deeds were restrictive in that way. You couldn't have cattle. I mean, the old ones are hilarious. There's some in them in Bryanston. I was killing myself laughing the other day. You can't have a metal roof in Bryanston. Now, you can have these things removed, but you need to know that they're there. Okay.
To begin with,
you can't have an abattoir. You can't have a brick making facility. I mean, this goes on and on and on. But people just have a tendency to just buy a property and not know what the restrictions on their property are, and it's just such a wrong thing. You will always, I mean, you've seen this before. There are arguments between neighbors. My neighbor has got 20 chickens. My neighbor has a sheep, whatever. There might be restrictive conditions in the title deed that says no livestock. That is a bylaw. There's a bylaw that goes with that, and it's in the title deed. So best you know what's going on. When you buy a property, you want to keep 20 chickens, a cow, and a hamster, make sure that you can actually do that on your property.
Okay. And make sure that you're allowed to sell alcohol on the premises. Someone should take that away. I don't like it. When you're looking at a home for the first time, what's the best piece of advice you would give someone starting on their property journey?
Make sure that you inspect the property properly.
I was thinking about that now when we were having the conversation about AI, because I feel like there's nothing like touch. And using your own eyes to see, oh, there's a crack over there. Sometimes the lighting is not good, and you can't see from the pictures that they post on the portals that, there's a leak in the one corner, or the water pressure isn't the way that you'd like it to be.
It gets worse. It gets worse. There are so many things that can be latent and patent defects of the property that you're buying. And as a person buying a house, you're not qualified to look at things. You're buying a house. You walk inside, you go, oh, look at the kitchen. Oh, look at the bathroom. Oh, look at the lounge. Oh, the sliding doors work. Great. And you go, sign on the dotted line. Then you take transfer of the property, and all of a sudden the roof's leaking, and the pipes are noisy when you switch the taps on, and there's just a myriad of things that go wrong. You switch on the light and you get electrocuted. You know, obviously there's certificates and things like that that you're supposed to get, and most times it's okay. But there are building inspectors that you pay, and it's not an expensive exercise, to go and climb into the roof and have a look and see if the trusses in the roof are in a good condition, if there's any chances of leaks, because they can see something in terms of the ceiling that you may not have spotted. You know, a slight discoloration, they've painted over it, you won't notice it. They will notice something like that. They will notice rising damp. They will notice whether or not the tiles are put on the walls properly, because they can see that they're buckling or whatever it is. And especially electrical work, because sometimes people get paid to do electrical certificates and they're not really right. And those kind of things, you need an inspector, because you, as a purchaser, are looking at things at face value. You walk in, you love the place, you buy it, and then you live with what you've bought. So my first step is, yes, you found the place that you want to live in because it suits your requirements. You've checked the title deeds and you've checked everything else going on around, and you're happy with all of the thing. Now you get it inspected, and it's got to be part of your offer to purchase. You don't just sign an offer to purchase because the real estate agent says sign here. You read it carefully and you make sure that you've got in there, subject to you doing a full investigation and a due diligence on the property.
Mark, I could honestly talk to you forever, and I feel as though let's continue this another time, and then a time after that as well, because you and I can go on and on and on. Listen, tell me why I must come to Soundrock Integrated Property Solutions. What will you do for me if I come there? And I'm like, Mark, help me.
Okay, so our business is more of a development type of business. So we do developments, we do consulting, like leasing, as I said before, and all that kind of stuff. So
pretend I'm rich.
Pretend you're rich.
Yeah.
So you're rich and you want to build yourself a 10.5 to 20 million rand house.
I come to you.
You come to me. You know, we will manage that process all the way through, including hiring of all the professionals, the architects, making sure that everybody's qualified and you get the specification of the product that you require. I mean, that's really why we're there.
And you can get me an iron tin roof in Bryanston.
Oh no, I can do that for you.
I love you.
Thanks, sis.
Mark Berman, the Managing Director of Soundrock Integrated Property Solutions, joining us today. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
It is time for our competition moment, where one of our lucky viewers gets to walk away with $500 cold hard cash and a ticket to the property show happening on the 27th and the 28th of August 2022 right here at the Sandton Convention Centre. Without any further ado, let me tell you today's winner is... I love this name. Bongani Queen Bee Mabunda. Congratulations. A whopping $500 is coming to you. And we are looking forward to seeing you at the property show on the 27th and the 28th of August. That's it from today's episode of the Private Property Podcast and myself, Sibs Matiela. I'll see you tomorrow.
This year, we're back. In real life and virtual, with content generated in our metaverse studio. We've designed the exhibition space to replicate the world's most popular property game and added in activities for the whole family, including an indoor park and play area. The game board is divided into 4 journeys, namely First-Time Homebuyers Boulevard, Investment Avenue, Sellers Street, and Renters Road. Visit thepropertyshow.co.za for more information and to get your tickets today. The Property Show 2022, 27th to the 28th of August at the Sandton Convention Centre. No matter where you are on your property journey, we've gathered the experts.